I'm trying to beat World of Warcraft Classic as an Arcane only mage without dying a single time. Last video we pushed the 2 usable Arcane spells to their limit and blasted our way through the Stockades and Black Fathom Deeps, finally getting a long-awaited wand upgrade. Speaking of long-awaited upgrades, these goggles are looking a bit out of fashion. To help us, I quickly catched up on engineering to give us access to the green tinted goggles. And by using a bit of foresight, I've already stored 2 moss agates in the bank from previous findings. But the troublesome material is going to be the medium leather. To get the previous goggles, we ran around looting chests around Elwyn for an hour, which is not really something I want to repeat, and this really only leaves us with one other option. After some fishing, I got enough skill to fish in wetlands, where we can access some watertight trunks out of schools of fish or salvage. These contain a lot of different things, but for us, they boast a stunning 45% chance to contain 2 to 4 medium leather, which we promptly acquired from our first trunk, letting us craft our new fancy goggles. Having spent quite some time fishing though, I decided to clear the rest of the coast in search of a few more trunks, and I'm honestly glad I did, since one of the boxes had a new fashionable pair of pants. Last time we managed to get our hands on a new Arcane Explosion rank, which puts us at the beginning of a new cycle. This rank has about a 50% damage increase over the previous. This is really something we need to take advantage of, because it is quite literally the fastest we are ever going to be able to kill a lot of enemies, and that's exactly what we did. It's also worth mentioning that we have spec'd improved mana shield, and with rank 2 of the spell now in our arsenal, it means that each mana shield is able to absorb 210 physical damage for the cost of 400 mana, which theoretically just doubles our max health, but practically we need to use mana for a few other things as well, such as damage. Feeling good from absolutely terminating the local raptor population, I of course used slow fall to jump off this very tall ledge and killed some more raptors. But ahead of us lies a very big decision. Elite quests are a good source of not only experience but also upgrades to our gear. Now of course, elites have around triple to quadruple the health of traditional enemies, but to help us they also deal significantly more damage, leaving us with no way of being able to out DPS them, especially considering that we don't even have enough total mana to deal that much damage. This of course leaves us with the option of kiting. Unfortunately, Arcane is the weakest school of magic to use for such a thing. Frost obviously has infinite slows, but even Fire is equipped with Fire Blast, which is a long-range instant cast that costs half the mana of Arcane Explosion. This leaves us with only a wand to use, which is sketchy because we have to stand still for quite some time before an attack goes out, and of course Arcane Explosion, which costs a great deal of mana and has a limited range. All in all, these are all good reasons for us to not attempt elite quests. So after finishing up wetlands, it was off to Arathi. Just kidding, of course we're gonna try the elite quests. So how are we going to kite an elite for minutes at a time without any sort of movement impairing effects? Well, you might have seen me do something similar before, and that is with the use of either fences or trees. Fences are the better options, but wetlands lack any substantial amount of infrastructure, so we're going to have to turn to Mother Nature. The reason why trees work is that enemies take a slightly longer path around the trunk of the tree, letting us cut edges sharper, giving us a little bit of distance. Now, the first attempt I just wanted to test the waters. Our biggest problem lies in keeping him in combat. If I don't deal damage to him for some time, he's just gonna reset and run back to his camp. But if I'm too greedy and hit him too much, he's gonna catch up, which will either force me to blink away or reset the pull. Attempt number 1 wasn't too successful. He always managed to reach me and my mana was burned at a rapid pace. Attempt number 2 was a lot better, but eventually my mana got completely whittled down and I had to mana pot to blink away. But this gave me an idea. Up to this point I had been a bit careful with my mana, trying to save enough for the kill. But this only led to me using a lot of rank 1 Arcane Explosion to keep him in combat, which is less damage per mana, and on top of that he also hit me a lot in mana shield, which also burns a ton. Instead, I was going to try to blow all my mana up front, then drop a target dummy and use evocation to get right back to full to finish him off. Unfortunately, I kinda messed up early in the pull and then panicked while dropping the dummy, completely wasting the 3rd attempt. But the idea was there. By the 4th, I got a lot more comfortable with what to do. I used Arcane Explosion, slightly staggered as he was close, and as soon as I gained a bit of distance, I threw one wand attack at him, to save some mana and allow him to get close enough again. But then I made a fatal mistake. My mana gem shares cooldown with the target dummy, and I popped it like an idiot thinking I would squeeze out a bit more damage before it was time to evocation. This would leave me with a 3-something minute cooldown before I could use my dummy. But I wasn't going to give up, as long as I kept playing the way I had, albeit with a bit more wanding and a lower rank of Arcane Explosion. Unfortunately, you only need to get a mob close to 20% HP before they start running a lot slower, being close to death. And at this point, kiting becomes a cakewalk. So once there, I quickly finished him off and managed to slay Necrosh on my 4th attempt, even securing us an achievement. Then it was off to Thandalspan, where I already managed to acquire a new pair of pants. Okay, and it came with a timed quest where I had to sprint to South Shore before the time ran out. But while doing so, I kind of overlooked what levels the enemies around me were and ran straight into Fire Elemental like 10 levels above me. But aside from that, enemies were now taking a very long time to kill, with 4 Arcane missiles cast each. Therefore, it's really about time we hit level 32. But we were returning to Stone Talon, where the mobs were slightly lower level, so right now our low rank shouldn't pose that much of a problem. Although I quickly regretted going there after I had run about 50 laps around this cursed valley just to find a single basilisk, but eventually that cleared up and we headed into Desolace to grab the flight path on our way out. This is where I ran to Rexar, and after suffering a mini cardiac arrest, a quick Google search reassured me that he was of no threat to us. Nice. Finishing up Ashen Vale, I really took a moment to consider how crazy it is that this game was released in 2004. Like, it seems almost impossible that this game is so big and was made 20 years ago. Anyways, I ran into this rare which has a very scary 10-second cast that one-shot you if it goes off. So I just had to make sure to interrupt it and kill him before he gets the next cast off. Although killing him here was kind of a mistake since apparently he also dropped the quest item. But after a lot of trial and even more error, we hit 32 and unlocked our new Arcane Missiles rank. This rank is not only a big damage increase, it actually costs less mana per damage, which is nice to see. Out of my adventures I also ran into another Arcane only mage, which is kinda cool but feels overshadowed by the fact that he is of the opposite faction and twice my level. So I fled. Clearing the dead mice 10 levels ago started a quest chain that we finally managed to finish just now, giving us the Seal of Rin, and this ring might last us for quite a while. It's also kinda crazy how strong the initial target dummies are. After overpulling a pack of werewolves, it managed to tank all 5 of them for ages, as I just kept blasting them down, really showing the strength of engineering. But feeling strong after taking down Necrosh, it was time to flex our strength on Morladim, another elite situated in Duskwood. In fact, there are 3 elite quests in this area that we are about to tackle. Morladim was going to prove a much easier challenge than the previous, because this time we have access to the fence. While a bit tricky to make the jump at times, it still clears the tree by a wide margin due to us being able to blink away easily if something goes wrong. On top of that, we're also mostly stationary, leaving us able to Arcane missiles for a majority. With Morladim down and another achievement secured, I found it kind of funny how these quest achievements give the same amount of points as the Arcane challenge. This means getting from 1 to 60 using only Arcane spells gives the same reward as killing that elite. Being blessed by Powered Fortitude, which really just is a stupid amount of health, it was time for our next elite. This one is no trouble as a caster. Because Eliza is also a caster, we can stand on top of the shed to completely negate the ad she spawns, without resetting her. This leaves it to a DPS race between the 2 of us, and in a scenario like that, we come out on top. The last elite quest is the scariest though, because he spawns with 4 extra enemies. I was already uncertain if I was even going to attempt it, but when I showed up to his home, he was already being killed. So I decided to skip this one for now. For real this time. Too scary. Hitting level 34 unlocks perhaps the last new spell of our kit, Mage Armor. This gives us a small amount of resistance, which is completely overshadowed by the other effect, allowing us to keep 30% of our mana regeneration while casting. This coupled with the talent giving us 15%, we total a 45% retained mana regen, which is actually very substantial. After finally utilizing our Presence of Mind polymorph on some unsuspecting murlocs, we had to enter a familiar looking cave in search of some granite? I don't know. Of course, in another pinnacle of quest design, we cleared the entire cave without completing the quest. But after a bit of wait 1 had respawned. Regrettably, this also means the rest of the cave had respawned, and I didn't really want to clear my way out, considering all the dangers involved. So I decided to opt for a logout skip. This is done by simply logging out while above terrain while inside some sort of structure or a cave. And then once logging in, the game will send you straight to the nearest graveyard or an instance portal, which you can use to save some time. But as I logged out, I realized, hey, is it only friendly graveyards or is it any graveyard? This is quite the realization to have when it's already way too late. Terran Mill is for sure closer to us than South Shore and is populated by level 55 Horde guards. If I were to log in and end up there, that's a very high chance to die. Not only that, the instance portals for Alterac Valley are right above our heads. We could be closest to the Horde entrance, resulting also in instant death. But there's really no way around it other than logging in. Character unstuck requests are not allowed by the hardcore add-on, so it's just time to send it. The Alliance Alterac Valley Instance Portal was the closest to us. What a very stupid way to die that would have been. But this also took us exactly where we wanted to go, so in the end, mission accomplished, I guess. I also had a few more scares running past Terran Mill as I was grabbing the Western Plaguelands flight path, and not only bumping into high-level Horde guards, but also this very big and scary elite red dragon for some reason. Remember a few videos ago where we killed Fangor? We used the tactic called split pulling. This lets us separate the enemy of interest away from a pack by making sure we pull the entire pack using the same ability. This was again going to be useful for the Forsaken Courier, and using the explosives provided by that one storming quest 20 levels ago, I managed to get a perfect split pull and kill the courier. On the way out, I also managed to contract a nasty disease, but being the oracles that we are, we had saved a staff from an Ashenvale quest which lets us dispel a disease or poison to use for this one moment. I also strolled by Stromgarde to stock up on the first aid books required to advance in the profession. And a short while after that we hit level 35, which gets us access to the talent Instability. When this is fully spec'd, it will give us 3% damage and crit chance, which is nothing to scoff at when combined with the 6% Arcane Explosion crit chance, putting us at a 14% chance to crit with that one spell, which is, you know, half our damage in kit. It was now time for perhaps our biggest undertaking yet. Gnomeregan. This place is, for the lack of a better word, a fucking maze. It's indefinitely long with a lot of spots that can easily wipe your group, especially coming towards the end. But after our group was assembled, somebody actually noted that they had seen a YouTube video of a guy doing the Arcane challenge as well. Not wanting to embarrass myself after having identity revealed, I went to flex my Arcane Explosion and nearly died pulling like 10 mobs. Good start. We also have a bit of an interesting dungeon setup. A low level healer, Arcane only mage, and a Retribution paladin as a tank. This is a dungeon where the levels are getting to a point where I'm no longer comfortable tanking half the time, which means our AoE damage is going to take a hit. Luckily, major segments of this dungeon feature packs of 4 to 6 non-elite enemies at a time, which completely saves our overall damage by letting us pad like crazy. After an hour of winding down these infinite halls, we were approaching the last boss, which presents us with two formidable challenges. First, the Dark Iron Dwarves. These lads drop mines, which if not killed on time will blow up, ensuring the end of your bloodline. But funnily enough, that's not even the scariest part. The pathway is separated into 3 sections, 2 upper and 1 lower. Now clearing all of them is out of the question, so you have to stick to one. The catch is, if you were to at any point accidentally aggro one of the other levels by getting too close, the now approaching enemy will run through the entire floor to reach you, dragging literally every mob down there with them along the way. On top of this, because our priest is slightly underleveled, it increases the range at which enemies see him. To get around this immense threat of looming death, all you have to do is hug the walls like your life depends on it, because it literally does. Not that it makes it easy, considering tackling even one floor is a challenge, but with enough CC and careful pulling, we made it to the last boss and finished the dungeon. Well, I say finished, but we spent another 30 minutes running around trying to finish quests. Eventually we called it quits and I teleported out to freedom. Our reward is a lot of XP and this very fancy chest. Sadly, the chest is just mostly spirit, but with mage armor unlocked, this is no longer such a dead stat. Plus, it looks nice. We are now close to 4 levels away from our mount, but that will have to wait until next time. See ya!